Horse racing had been in Europe since ancient times, mainly in the form of chariot racing. In this work, painted by Richard Roper in 1754, we see an example of how early provincial races in England were run. The story is told in the legend at the bottom of the painting. This is one in a series of 3 pictures, showing a match of 3 heats.
The horses were set one against the other. In this case, Driver was the name of this horse, and Aaron was the name of this, and Driver narrowly won. Jockey fell off, got injured. In the second heat, another jockey had to ride and didn't ride so well, so Aaron won the second heat, and then they had to have a third heat, and then finally Driver with yet another jockey won that.
Gambling was part of the fun and quite prevalent, whether in a 2-horse race or in later races of 20 or more. You might imagine how this may have led to widespread corruption. Around 1750, the Jockey Club was established to set guidelines and bring some order to the races and surrounding activities. A pair of paintings by James Pollard depicts the start and finish of the Doncaster races and shows how much racing had changed by 1830. We see a huge stand filled with spectators and well over 20 horses heading up chaotically towards the starter. Gates and tapes were not used yet to line up the horses.
You can see here they're all grass tracks, unlike race courses in America, which are mostly dirt. There was lots of shenanigans going on, but essentially we'd recognize it as a modern race.
As we've seen, Pollard was a wonderful documenter of races and race courses. Like most sporting artists of the time, he was always seeking different ways to increase his income.
He was relatively untrained, had begun really as a coach painter, but made a speciality of depicting events like this, which could then be made into prints and be sold in large numbers, and that's the way he made his livelihood.
An earlier Wootton painting showed a trainer as a character of the turf. The life was rough. But in this 1842 painting of a trainer and his family by John Frederick Herring, things have changed. The growing horse racing economy was now providing a nice livelihood for an emerging middle class. Thomas Dawson was a well-known trainer of Scottish origin, and just 33 at the time this portrait was painted.
But as you can see, he was substantially well off. He'd obviously done well, presumably backing his own horses in various races. And here he is as a substantial member of the middle class with his 2 sons wearing little Scottish Glengarry hats and his daughter in his arms. And here they all are, members, fully paid up members of the bourgeoisie, even though racing was still considered a little bit disreputable.
In Herring's painting of the Doncaster Gold Cup finish, we see not only a style of riding that would change, but a way of depicting horses at full gallop that would change as well.
I think, personally, horses were painted like this, what I call a sort of rocking horse position, because that's the way they wanted to express speed, to make it look as if the horse is really going fast. I can't believe that they didn't quite see how horses actually gallop, because the horses were around them all the time.
In the late 1800s, the English photographer Edward Muybridge shot a series of photographs that showed clearly how horses moved.
So that a horse is never actually like this. If it were, it would fall flat on its stomach. But nevertheless, for 200 years or more, this was the way speed was shown.